Search Assistant found a staffing agency that you can buy for $150,000 down and net $310,000 per year after making your loan payments. So this assumes you take out a 10-year, 11.5% interest, 5% down SBA loan to buy this $3 million business that's advertising $800,000 in annual cash flow. Now, looking at staffing companies, there's one thing you really want to keep in mind. And the first questions you want to ask when digging in is, when do they receive funds from their clients? So in the extremes, in the medical staffing, typically hospital staffing, it's not unheard of where it's a 90-day cash collection cycle. So your employees, your staff, they do work in the hospital, you bill it back to the hospital, then they have time before they actually have to pay you. That can add up to 90 days. So think about that. That means that you paid for the labor, you had your expense, and you're not gonna receive cash for 90 days later. So that means you need enough money to float you through that entire period before money starts coming in. So we don't know if that's true for this business. It probably isn't. They probably have a little shorter cash collection period, but let's just say they do have a 90-day cash collection period. So this business, they have about $1.7 million in quarterly expenses. So that means you might need about $1.7 million in working capital or cash in the business to get through that first quarter of ownership. Now, banks will lend you the money you need for your working capital, and in most instances, they will give you all that you need, but they typically don't go above $500,000. That's just kind of a cap. I don't think it's written in a rule anywhere, but most of the banks we know, 500K is about as high as they go. So that means the remainder either needs to come from you or the seller. There's a few ways to work that out with the seller. One, you can do a seller note. If you need $1 million in cash, you do a seller note for the $1 million that you finance over 10 years or whatever you can get the seller to agree to. That will leave the cash in the business. You can raise the deal price. So as long as the deal's going to appraise and pass the appraisal process, you raise the price of the deal and tell the seller that they need to leave that $1 million in cash in the business. So this is something you really want to work out before you make an offer. So you really want to focus on trying to figure out those working capital needs. So especially when it comes any business, especially staffing companies like this one, the first questions are going to be, when do they have to pay money out and when does the money come in? And then you need to tally that all up and figure out how much cash you need to get through that first window of business ownership. So looking at this business, I think the valuation is pretty high. We didn't talk a lot about this individual business, but there is going to be some working capital need there, and that's going to essentially add on to the price of this. So remember, not all staffing companies are the same. We don't know the collection period of this particular one, but that's really what you want to make sure that you understand going in. Reach out if you want to buy a business together, or use our search assistant to find a business more like this one.